be okay with risk, because ultimately risk leads to change.
So welcome to Rep the Worker. This is a show about how humans work, how they adapt, how they work, how they grow as workers, and not just employees, not employers, but how we approach the concept of work, what it means, what is our purpose in work, what is our meaning in work. And I have a great first guest. His name is Sam Mollaei. Sam was the first guest on my old podcast called Law Flip. And I'll let you take a look at it right here.
I think it starts off with connections and relationships. I think it's not just a person thing. I think it's if we build relationships, we really focus on the relationships first before we do anything else. We don't go from not knowing somebody and asking. We go from not knowing somebody to say, hey, how can I add value to this relationship?
And Sam is an entrepreneur. He's a thought leader. He is somebody who has profoundly changed the trajectory of my life. I found him online. I started talking to him. We became friends. We shot content together. And he has been a thought leader for me as a lawyer, as a person, and just in general, just a great leader and somebody who I've looked up to. It's been hard to find people in the law game that I've necessarily aspired to be like, and Sam has been a great role model in so many ways. And so I want to first give you an opportunity, Sam, to introduce yourself. Who are you? What are you about? And tell me just very briefly about yourself, or tell the people briefly about yourself.
Appreciate it. You should probably follow me around and just talk like this. I'll build up my self-confidence on a daily basis. So I've been a lawyer for 10 years, but I'm more focused on thinking about the future. What does the future look like? And figure out what, where I should place myself as quickly as possible. And I'm a super early adopter, so I usually catch on to the trends early. And then when I find the trends, I don't question it. I act on it as fast as I can, as hard as I can. Try to take advantage of it for those two or 3 years until the market catches on. By the time the market catches on, I'm already moved on to the next thing. And I'm continuously doing that. I feel like that's like the secret recipe of success, is thinking about the future and acting on it early. I follow early adopters. I learn from early adopters, find the patterns. And then now I kind of realize that I'm also kind of sharing, when I shared those experiences and those lessons about what does the future look like, then people can grasp that better. And my ultimate mission is having control, having freedom, because I came from a background that was very restricted. I was born in Iran, so it was a very restricted kind of environment. But now, because I have the opportunity to be able to, to be who I want to be and do what I want, I don't take that freedom for granted. And I try to, apply those concepts to ultimately lead to the control and the freedom, which ultimately leads to being a good person, being a family man, and a wholesome person. And, also spirituality and God is a big part of that too.
I love it. I love listening to you. It reminds me of back when I really first started catching wind of you online. And when you say you're an early adopter, the legal game is very, we're dinosaurs, right? So you're at the at the edge of technology and all this innovation in general, but as it relates to lawyers, you're so far ahead. So when you first started coming out, I started learning automations. I started learning just these basic tools like Loom and these different things to incorporate. And it really helped accelerate my ability to not just work, but take my ideas and try to execute them and be more willing to try things, because it wasn't as heavy of a lift to try these things. So I've learned so much from you on just how to implement basic things into my daily work of being a lawyer. And I think what we're trying to do with this podcast, which we're calling Rep the Worker, is we're trying to just talk about how we should approach work. How should we represent employees? So we're dealing with employees who a lot of times we can't even help. We have to reject 97% of the cases that come to us. So I started to think about how can I help these 97% of people? Sure, I could refer them cases, but is my message every day going to be about discrimination, harassment, retaliation? Is that really going to be something that I'm going to feel good talking about every single day? Or am I going to talk about lifting people up and talk about positive things like this type of stuff that you talk about? And sure, if you happen to fall victim to discrimination, harassment, or retaliation, contact us. But like, I don't want that to be my everyday message. So this concept of this podcast is to just talk about how we should approach work. Whether you're an entrepreneur, you're an employee, whatever you are, how should we be thinking about work? So I don't know that I've heard you talk about this in general in terms of like, how have your views of work evolved over time in terms of finding your purpose, finding your meaning, like from the start of your career to now? How has that evolved, your thinking about work?
So given my background and based on the community and my teachings and my learnings from the Torah, and seeing the trends, what works, what doesn't, it's led me to personally believe that the traditional family lifestyle is where it's at. Traditional in my head means that essentially the man is, for the most part, the breadwinner, and at the same time, there is a role for the woman to have a choice of either being a mother or a mother and a worker. So, but as you saw, like the main, the fundamental is the mother being a mother. So what I've seen, if if women start either replacing or, the order is not right, becoming mothers later, then usually there's a bigger struggle later to become a mother, to get married, to get things. So I like to, the way that I see it, again, this is my own personal viewpoint. I think it's very crucial for mothers to be mothers, get married early, have kids, and then also have the option to want to work or not. And ultimately, it's that traditional perspective. If both sides want to work, by all means, go for it. But at the very least, I think it's very crucial to get that in early. Build a family early is a big thing. I think the trend right now that I'm seeing, and I think we all see, is people getting married later. It's a big problem, which leads to people being single longer, getting married, having kids later, sometimes not being able to have kids because it's later. That affects a lot of things. When you don't when you don't get married early, when you don't have kids early, then you kind of lose your purpose and you don't know what your purpose of life is. So that's where a lot of people feel lost, and then that affects their work, that affects everything, that affects their mood, and a lot of things stem from that. So,
and what would you say to somebody you cared about that just disagreed fundamentally with that concept, that like, hey, Sam, I love your theories about how to automate and how to use AI and how to do all that stuff, but like I personally just don't want to get married. I want to hold off. I want to focus on my career. How would you approach them?
I think marriage and being a parent, it's something that you don't understand until you get there. This is it's tried and tested. Ask any parent, did you ever imagine it would be like this,
right,
this meaningful and this joyful? Right. And there's no way. It's right, like speaking a different language.
You cannot talk about it with any real place of wisdom until you do it.
So that's the perspective that person will be basing, be based on. And, I will have a hard time communicating and showing the beauty and the purpose and the meaning and the reason behind it until you actually experience it. So it's very hard to, try to persuade somebody based on that. It's just one of those things you really have to experience it to really understand the purpose and the reason behind it.
So that's where you come at it from. Now, what is in your mind, regardless of gender, regardless of whether you're an employer, employee, how do you view your role as it relates to work?
Me personally, my own personal life, it pretty much is on me to make sure that I can sustain my family and also our future. Mm-hmm. Now I'm the one that's thinking about the future, while my wife is the one that's taking care of the family now.
And what about just like as it relates to work? Like what is like, are you thinking, I know you don't think of it as like, I need to make a certain amount per hour. Like what is your mindset around work when you wake up, and how has that evolved over time, right? You got out of law school, you were thinking a certain way, and now how are you thinking? Like how has that evolved over time?
Over time, the realization is that money is not the ultimate goal, but everything that you work on needs to be built for the future. So every action that I take, I'm not expecting any return now. Everything is built for the future. What does that mean? That means your actions need to somehow be building value that end up generating you results later. And if you take the opposite approach, if you're just doing things that are generating you results now, usually that doesn't help you build the future.
Right.
So, this could
give a very like practical way to think about that. What's it like? Like if you're thinking about the short term, you might be doing these things. Where if you're doing the long term, you're doing these things.
Very easy term is building value. Is not, you don't get instant results from value that you built. So let's just say taking into consideration this thing right now that we're doing. I'm not getting paid, right? We're not getting paid to do this.
Right.
But there is a potential ultimate value that could come for many, 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 many years after this. That value could be brought back to me in the grand scheme of things. So it's focusing on the value and the effort more than what am I getting back for this thing that I'm currently doing right now.
You've seen so many people struggle with this concept of what they consider to be taking risks, because like if I work today, I need to be getting paid an hourly rate or a day rate. And let's just say in a week, they would make $1,000. Whereas if you told them, hey, that's cool, you can make $1,000, but what if you didn't make money for 4 weeks, and instead of making $4,000 in those 4 weeks, you made 10, but you could make 10. I'm too scared to do that. I have to pay for the bills, right? How many different ways have you seen that manifest? You've talked to thousands of lawyers and employees and people. How many different ways have you seen this like limiting belief of creating value now for the future?
I think it comes down to the strategy of knowing yourself and the situation you're in. You got to be realistic. If you don't have a savings, then you need to make sure that you know what your burn is. I call it burn. You need to know what your monthly expenses are, and make sure at least you have something that's able to take care of that. But once you do that, then your next mindset is savings.
Yeah.
Right. Saving, generating enough to save, so that you'll get the capability to be able to make those bigger decisions, which you don't necessarily need to just cover your burn now, but you could take more risks to do things that don't lead you to the result right away, but could generate you returns later.
And for people that don't know a lot about you, how have you applied that mindset to what you've done, and where, from the beginning of being a lawyer to now?
So you need to have a cash flow. You need to have a cash flow source of revenue. For me as a business owner, I mean, to at least have one business that's covering my burn. But once I have that, can I grow that? Can I duplicate that? My scaling has been multiplication or duplications of these businesses. And then when I see that I got my short-term covered, then I could take more long-term risks or bigger risks. And the more you play the game gets easier, right? Because you're not, your hands aren't tied, then you're more flexible. You could take more of those moves. But I had to go through those motions. For the first 5, 6, 7 years, I had to put in my, pay my dues.
And how'd you do it? Like, what did you do? You started a law firm. You started making money with like your core law firm of like, you did business filings or something like that. And then what was the progression? You started there.
I learned early on, there's something that we mentioned in our past podcast, is the 3 principles, the essentially scaling, automating, and the virtual aspect. I applied those 3 principles, and the result of that was 4x of whatever I was generating. So let's just say my first year, I made $18,000 in my first year, literally $18,000 over about 10, 12 months of working. Second year, I made $80,000. Third year, 4 times that. Then it was like a 4x. And again, it was, so it was a 4x at that point. And then, so within a couple of years, I pretty much was able to cover my burn at that point, take more risks.
And then as it relates to, I know you're really passionate right now about automation. And automation is, for some of us, a really exciting thing. Yep. For some of us, it's a really scary thing. I actually think that I was so pro AI and all this stuff for so long. And then I think when I saw Sora and I saw all of the Sora, I was like, oh, this is getting a little scary. For people who don't know how to quite think about AI, for employees who think that they're just going to get wiped out, for employers who think that they don't have the ability to stay at the front of the trends, how should we be thinking about AI, and how can you sort of avoid the downsides of AI?
So pretty much every single job will be somehow affected by AI. And what that means, it's not meant to scare you. It just means that you need to learn how to use AI to your advantage. Doesn't matter what role you're in, right? There is a thinking component to what you're doing. And AI is your right-hand assistant to help you get to that answer and do that job faster.
Okay.
Not just faster, but also more refined. So better decisions, better output of work. So it doesn't matter what, they think about what you do. Can I use, at the very least, let's keep it very simple. Can I use ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok to be able to do my work faster? The more you're able to do that, and the more you're able to practice it and go through the motions, the more it'll open up your eyes to, well, actually, I could go through this work much faster, higher quality, and all that good stuff. And then as soon as I prove the model, I would take that to my boss and be like, yo, I just figured out how to do this job that used to take me 8 hours. I could do it in 10 minutes. How valuable is this to you? And then they'll be like, that's awesome. Okay, great. What I can do is I could essentially, before someone else would replace me, I could be the manager of this new department for you, and I'll scale this up for you. And I'll own this for you. And I'll show you that this is going to work out well. And if it goes well, I want to also own this other department that I could apply the same frameworks for this. And I want to be your AI head for this department.
You were making minimum wage before. You were scared that this AI is going to take your job. Now you theoretically just gave yourself a raise, and maybe you're going to get $30 an hour, $40 an hour because, yeah, sure, you showed the boss a way to get rid of your job. But I think this is the concept of like abundance versus scarcity. The idea that just because you now like made your job replaceable, that there's so much work to be done.
Yeah, no, you'll get smarter, you'll level up. So now let's just say you could level up to be a manager. And then from that, maybe you could level up from that. And it's not like you're stuck at that job. No, that's just one job. You could take this idea and provide value to another company and potentially even build your own company that does this for other companies. So
I'm a single mom.
Yeah.
I have 3 kids. I barely find time to get them dressed, get them ready for school and to work. How on earth can I find time to become an AI expert and apply that to my work and do what you just described?
Well, first of all, you need to be at a job where you can apply this to, right? If you don't have anything to apply to, you have no idea how AI is going to be applied. So make sure at least have a part-time job and think about how can I do this. And then go through the motions. You gotta, but you can't just you can't be a, single mom at home. Like, how can I use AI? Well, right. You need to start working so you know what to apply to.
I think the idea that people don't understand is that AI is just a tool that helps you do better at whatever it is that you want to do. So, but you could make the argument, like, if you're a nurse, well, you're just like in the work all day. You're not going to be able to apply AI. That's not true. What if part of your job is really good bedside manner, but like you don't really know how to be a good bedside manner person? So you go to ChatGPT and you say, what are 3 things that I can do every day to show the leaders at my company how to do better with bedside manner? Oh, every time you leave the room, say, is there anything else I can do for you? Or whatever it is. You weren't doing that the day before. Now you're going in there every day and you're applying these 3 things. So I just think that there's people, like, you have to get really curious about what your identity is as a worker, as a person. And I think that's the way that I think about it, is like, be curious about what you're doing in the world and what your goal. I think that's the other thing, is that people don't really have the honest conversation with themselves about what they're trying to accomplish. They're so just busy in survival mode that they just do. And they don't take a step back and say, wait, let me talk to ChatGPT for 20 minutes about have an interview me about what I want to accomplish in my life.
Yeah, actually I use this feature, and a lot of people don't. It's the interview feature. So when you don't know, let's just say the post, I made a post last week announcing my transformation of my new focus going forward. But I'm like, I don't know where to start. Like, there's so many things I could say about this. So my first thought was, let me go talk to ChatGPT to say, this is what I'm doing, but I don't know what questions to ask. Act as an interviewer and ask me the top 5 questions that you would ask me of somebody who's curious about this that I'm doing, and then ask me those questions. And so ChatGPT would ask me those questions. I would answer it. It would ask me the second question. I answered it. I answered those 5 questions. That was enough context. I took that context back into my social media expert who knows how to write my language, put that in there. Now I had a context. It included all those contexts of those top 5, things that I needed to include. Got that output. I looked at it myself. I revised it, added my own details and my own, specific little things that I know about. Throw that back to refine it. Brought it back, refined it further, and then posted it. It went viral. Still to this day, it's still reaching people that I haven't reached before.
This is about your announcement of sort of having your company called My Legal Academy get acquired. Correct. and moving on to your next phase. Like, tell us about just what that was like and what your new mission is right now.
So it's multifaceted. One is I realized that for me, I'm always questioning, what am I doing? So one of the things that I could foresee is that, autonomous law firm is trajectory of the future of law. Autonomous law firms. Autonomous law firms means a law firm that basically runs itself. Not completely autonomous, but at least, pretty, as autonomous as it gets. So, and then in order for me to be able to fulfill that mission, I was not able to do that while at the same time I'm running 7 law firms and leading a team of My Legal Academy. So, and I basically realized something has to give. And, and I realized this thingy is the thing that I basically have to give up to in order to fulfill the next phase of my future. And also I realized that this company, My Legal Academy, started off as a passion project. And the passion was just me loving to share and teach. And it got away from my hands because it turned into an organization with about 25 team members, with a COO, with directors and managers and multiple people, and it became more of an obligation and a chore more than passion.
It's so interesting you say that. And just to give people context for those who don't know, Sam became a figure in the legal world where people were looking to him for advice, and he was giving practical, actual advice that he was using in his firms that when I applied, they helped me so much. And he had people that were he doesn't want to hear this, like they were like literally groveling over him for advice on how to run their law firms. And these were some of the most successful lawyers across the country that were coming to Sam. And it was like, it just turned into a business. It started teaching classes. Then he charged, a certain amount of money to have the classes. And then it turned into an academy. You changed the name from Legal Funnels to My Legal Academy. And then I've had a couple businesses outside of my law firm, and I went to a course this summer, and they were talking about how like focus is like the number one most important thing. And eventually they're like, when certain people have to choose between different businesses, it really is like killing one of your children. It's a crazy, like over the top hyperbolic thing to say, but I'm so curious for you, how hard was it to make this decision, or was it relatively easy?
Super hard, and I'm still dealing with it. But I know in the grand scheme of things, it's the right thing to do. And I like being uncomfortable and challenge myself. So it also feels a little bit natural too. Change the status quo, challenge the status quo, think bigger, have a bigger vision. So even though it's, feels like, man, did I have to do that? Or, have these, second thoughts and doubts. If anything, I think now I'm actually like transitioning over to actually being excited to work on the new vision. And I could see and when you give up something, and I think we actually talked about this, in order for you to level up, and I actually said this line, in order for you to level up, you need to give up something.
Yeah.
So I had to sacrifice something to get to the next level. And I'm excited towards that next thing.
I know you've talked about this, and I've talked about this so much. And even on this episode, we've talked about this a lot, but like, I think what you went through there is the thing that most people are not willing to do at any stage of their life. Take that sort of tough move. I can't do that because I'm a lawyer, and if I do that, I am not going to be able to pay my rent, even though they're actually wrong. They could pay their mortgage, and they have 12 months of backup there. I am I'm at a minimum wage job, and I'm getting sexually harassed. I can't leave there because I don't have another job lined up. But are you taking the effort and time to go find another job so that you don't have to endure sexual harassment? Like, talk more about these limiting beliefs that probably you still struggle with, even though you're the leader on getting people to get rid of their limiting beliefs. Like, where do you still struggle with it, where you can help people see like kind of how ridiculous it is?
I think the common denominator of the limiting beliefs that we could talk about is essentially just fear of the unknown, specifically, which is, I don't know how this is going to pan out. And because I don't know how it's going to pan out, I expect the worst, and the worst looks very scary in my head. And you know what? I'll just take the easy way out, and I'll play it safe, because life is okay ultimately. Anyways, I'm okay. I'm comfortable right now.
Right.
But my realization is, this is it. Like this. Like, a lot of people think like you get another life, or something's gonna get something is coming up. Yeah, something's gonna come up. I'm like, this is it. This is like imagine this. Today is your last day. Today's your last day. What day are you gonna, how do you know you're gonna wake up tomorrow, or what's gonna happen tomorrow? So a lot of people wait. Like, I don't maybe it's I don't have lack of patience. I don't like waiting for anything. If I make up my mind, I'd rather, get it right then and then, do it right then and then, before I overthink it. So
it's a done is better than perfect.
Yeah. And just the fear, jumping into the fear and then taking risks, right? I've learned, risk is good.
Mm-hmm.
I think we talked about this before. Like, poker, I think, trained me to understand, risk.
Mm-hmm.
Have a mathematical and be calculated risk taker, but be okay with risk, because ultimately, risk leads to change. And if your head is in the right place and your focus is right, then change will ultimately lead to good things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's calculated risk, which leads to change, which leads to good things. And, and sometimes you want to also play dumb a little bit, just, don't overthink it. A lot of people overthink it, both sides, 3 sides, 4 sides, 5 sides, still deciding, before you get to there, I'm already just like, okay, I already moved on. I'm already, already did it.
I'm curious how you think, how, if at all, you deal with like ruminating thoughts. Like, so one of the things that I've struggled with over the years is getting sidetracked with like these repetitive thoughts that come to me. Like, and it could be about different things. Sometimes it's about like interpersonal relationships and stuff like that. Like, I
have a practical solution for that.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
You got to ask, where and when do those thoughts come in? So I'll ask you that. Now, you don't have to tell me the context, but where does it usually kick in for you, and when?
I think, thankfully right now I'm at the most peaceful place that I think I've been in a while, but like, that is fragile. Like, your mindset, I've realized that whether it's the gym, whether it's your mindset, these things are not renewable energies. They don't just because you put energy into it a year ago, you could be miserable today. You could be happy a year ago, but if you haven't putting in the work into doing stuff for yourself, like, it's not going to hold up. You have to, it's a daily commitment to your mindset and all that stuff. So for me right now, thankfully, I'm chill. But where it has come up with is interpersonal relationships with like certain people in my life, or even how to parent my kids or different things like that, like obsessing over it. And like, just I'm in the shower, no matter where I go, like, I'm working, but like, oh fuck, oh shit, how do I deal with this? How do I improve it? And I think a lot of it has come down to like the serenity prayer, like, what can I control? What can I control? And how do I know the difference between what I control? But I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on this.
I would tap into the when and where, and, be very clear on what those things are, and then see how you can change either the setting or those triggers that leads you to that. It's basically, it's your the context of where you surround us, and you don't want to place yourself in those same situations where those thoughts kick in. That's like one practical thing. So think about that. When and where does that kick in? The other thing is start your mornings right. When you're clear, when you have a good morning, and difference between a very solid morning that you have where you're able to go work out, have some Zen time with yourself, have a nice breakfast or do whatever, usually you're going to have less devious, thoughts coming in throughout the day. That really separates somebody who has, a good day versus bad day. Is just like, look at their mornings.
Yep.
It's so true, like practically speaking,
100%.
very practical. So I would tap into that too. So make sure before 10 a.m. you're doing, and it's not one thing. You really, usually it's a series of habits that you build up over time.
Yep.
And as you said, the last part is like it's a process.
How often do you have a good day?
Now 3 or 4 weekdays, basically 3 or 4 weekdays a week.
You still find that yourself like 2 or 3 of the days are not as good of days as you like.
Sure. And that's usually because probably you going out late at night, maybe, either eating not healthy or drinking, which leads you to sleeping late or getting worse sleep.
Right.
And then now you're tired in the morning. So it's usually you want to question what you did the night before.
How much of like just taking care of yourself is the low hanging fruit? Like drinking enough water, getting enough sleep, eating healthy, working out, taking vitamins, like the basic low hanging fruit that's hard to do for ourselves sometimes.
It's such a necessity. And I learned this from Tony Robbins, is that, you need to be in a good state, right? I think it's worth watching it. It's a good YouTube video. Just look up Tony Robbins state, like changing your state.
Yeah. Because
when you change your state, that affects your thoughts, which affects your actions, which affects your results. And that kind of lesson, I'm like, it's all about state. So it's about how you feel, basically.
I have a question about faith, but before you just mentioned Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
Who are the other thought leaders that we should be looking to right now? Or that you're looking to that you think might be helpful to people? If
people are into financial literacy, for me, that's like one of my main passions right now, and has been for the last couple of years, but even more so, I'm like leaning towards it. And all this change, by the way, also leads to that. There's the most awesome YouTube channel called Invest Answers. It's a guy named James. He's older, very experienced, 40 years in finance. And he takes all those years, decades of experience when it comes to investing, whether it be stocks, real estate, AI, crypto, Bitcoin, all that, the whole world. And every single day he pulls out the most well-researched, most well-thought-out presentation, what you need to know, how to think, how to strategize, what to do to set up you and your family's future. And I've been watching every single one of his videos for the last 5 years. And my financial literacy has, blown through the roof because of him. And God bless him. And
one of the things you said to me early in like our first episode we ever did was that like how much time you spend on YouTube and how much time you invest in it. And like I was like to a lawyer, that sounds crazy. You're sitting around watching YouTube, but like you actually have probably learned so much and made so much money just on doing that. Any other thought leaders that you look to as inspirational or helpful in any categories?
I try to watch videos that other people wouldn't watch. And what I mean by that is usually longer videos. And really people that are really top of their game. Just today I was watching, it might be controversial, I'll just say it. It was like a Saudi Arabian head of technology interviewing Elon Musk and the NVIDIA main guy. And, when that gets posted, not that people are watching it. Why? Because it might be controversial. It's like, I don't want to watch Saudi Arabia. I don't want to watch Elon Musk. I don't want to watch the NVIDIA guy. But these are like the two top minds in the entire world that really affects everybody's future, right? Tesla, NVIDIA, two of the biggest AI
whether you hate him or not, whether
I have no bias against it.
I'm saying whatever anybody's opinions are,
that's the other thing. Like people's biases gets in the way of their future.
You hate him. Doesn't mean you shouldn't watch him. You love him. Doesn't mean you shouldn't watch him.
Yeah. So I don't have any bias. I just want to learn and grow. So
right.
Obviously. I don't want to learn from, let's just say, Andrew Tate. I'm not going to go listen to his garbage, but, I'm going to listen to somebody who's, been successful in his game. So I watch those videos that most of the people, and I keep up. That's the thing too. And you want to stay up to date with these things. Oh, another one. I have another one that's really, really good. It's the All In podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been my go-to from the very beginning.
Okay, Sam, they're just billionaires talking about stuff. Why should I listen to billionaires talking about stuff?
Because they're sharing golden nuggets of what does the future look like and what you should do now.
Okay, I want to talk about something that has evolves. Everybody's on I believe that everybody's on like a spectrum of religiosity. You're either completely agnostic or not into it, or you're curious, you're fully observant, you're somewhere in between. I myself have gone up and down, different, sideways. At this stage in my life, I'm more curious about it than ever. I'm more passionate about it. I'm taking every single, tonight I'm going for the third week in a row to a sort of like basically meaning of life course. I'm curious how your views of faith have evolved, and like the trend of there's almost a bounce back a little bit towards faith. And how can brilliant people believe in faith when you have to have faith? Like, just give me your whole shtick on faith.
So first I'll sell it and then I'll give you my background.
Okay.
Me selling it is like the ultimate secret in life is God. So, if whatever you're dealing with, whether it be your family or your relationships, your business, ultimately the answer is going to be somewhere faith related and God related, where you're going to be able to find those answers there. So that's me selling it. My background was I was raised in a religious family where my father was an Orthodox Jew. So all the stuff, going to synagogue every single day, keep observing Shabbat, observing kosher. I was basically raised into that. But there's one issue. As I grew up older, I realized I was just born into this. But is this something that I, discovered or accepted myself? Or the things that I'm doing, what are they for? Understanding like, why do we do these things? I didn't really have any of the contextual understanding and educational background to be able to know all the reasons behind all the things that I was doing. So as I grew up, ended up essentially questioning it. And actually for like about a year, I came off it a little bit, just not to an extreme, but just barely enough for me to start questioning myself. And at that time, I was growing a lot, was focused on self-development, started reading a lot of books, started reading a lot more, started going to Israel, visiting Israel, started going to my rabbi's house a lot more. And that's when I saw the true beauty of this amazing religion and realizing that, no, this is actually the universal truth. And whether I understand it or not doesn't affect the truth. A lot of people I realized one funny example is, when we were younger, we would hear these things about halacha. Halacha is basically rules that you would learn. So in Iran, there will be a thing like somebody to just say, our father would come home and say, oh, I learned this halacha from our rabbi that says you got to do this. And we're like, what do you mean? What is this halacha? We never followed this. And now there's a new rule. And it was always and then there was always a joke around that, it's a new halacha. It's like a new thing that was invented. And as I grew older, I realized it wasn't new. It was just new to us. So it wasn't invented right then and then. These halachas that they were just teaching us, these were all in the books for thousands of years. It was just new to us. And that's a misconception that a lot of people have to religion. They just don't understand it, or they think it's new, or they think it's thing. But these are all, they've been there for thousands of years, been argued, a million different angles. And that's the beauty of Judaism. Like, nothing is just taken for face value. Believe me, every single thing in Judaism is questioned more than any other religion.
There's a whole. I mean, rabbis literally argue all day.
I'm not joking.
Every day.
Billions of books, billions, trillions. I'm not joking. And I say these. I'm not saying these numbers. Once you understand the grasp of how intense these books and how many books and commentary there have been for thousands of years, literally trillions of pages debating every single angle, shooting every single hole at every single one of these commentaries and regulations and rules. And now here we come in 2025 or 2026, we're gonna start questioning these things. Guys, there's some things that are universal. And again, I kind of have this like macro approach that even if I don't, and I have this acceptance that even if I don't understand it now, that's just my incompetence that maybe I haven't understood, but I do still accept it as truth. And it's just a matter of time, me dedicating my time to learn those things. So I accept it. And I also have a progression. Like I'm observant and growing. So am I following every single thing? No. But am I heading towards in the right direction of always trying to add on something, at least on a weekly basis? Yeah. Me and my wife are like always about being in a consistent good direction. Not doing it too much, not doing it too slow either.
What do you like? I think this goes back to like a core theme, which is you have this belief, and there are so many different people that have different beliefs than you. Like I'm sure you've taught people of all faiths, Islam, Christianity, Mormonism, agnostic people. How have you been able to have this internal belief, very strong belief, and then you're dealing in the secular world? You're not dealing in just like the religious Jewish world. You're dealing with the whole world. How have you balanced like being proud of your beliefs, having your beliefs with like this whole world out here who some people despise religion, some people despise Judaism, some people despise Israel? Like, how have you found a way to be yourself and still navigate this world with people with completely polar opposite views than you?
So first of all, that's the beauty of Judaism. Like we don't try to recruit anybody into our religion. If anything, we're persuaded against from doing that because, you know, whoever you are and however way you were raised and whatever religion we see you as. But what I found is God is very universal. I think it's instilled in, I would say, even everybody, even atheists. Maybe the atheists just haven't spent the time to be able to learn enough about and question it enough to ultimately get to a conclusion. But we accept everybody for who they are. And ultimately, you know, for me, I'm not concerned about what other people's beliefs and what they think about. I'm never trying to argue with anybody in any shape or form. You believe whatever you want to believe, and I'll continue, you know, believing in God and doing what I do.
Yeah, I think that's what's helped you excel in many aspects of your life. Where are you struggling and where are you trying to improve right now?
One thing that I'm personally struggling with Judaism is, and again, it's a personal thing, is being consistent to pray with a minyan. Minyan is an amazing concept. Minyan means a quorum of at least 10 people, 10 men that you're going to be praying with at least 3 times a day. Well, technically, it's usually going to be in the morning and evening, and then in those 2 sessions, you do basically 3 different prayers. I try to do my best to make it to the morning minyan. I try to do my best. I'm not, I'm not perfect. So, I try to do the best I can. And then second is the evening time. So it's something that have been working on, and continue to be working on until get to that point that, that's something I'm going to be striving towards.
How should just any nuggets for the employer-employee relationship? How can employers do better? How could employees do better? And just from like what you've seen, you've been mostly an entrepreneur, employing people, but you've been able to see all aspects of it. You have religion, you have faith, you have all aspects of humanity in mind. What other than fear, which is I think that's a big one that you've noted, what other things are you seeing that can be improved upon to just help your life in the workplace?
I'll just take the two-sided approach. For employer, I think it's very important for the employer to be very clear on what the role is. And very importantly, what's the main KPI for the employee's role? And distilling down every employee's role into essentially a KPI. And I know a lot of people will hear that and be like, they'll cringe, like, what do you mean every employee is just a KPI? I'll be straight up with you. Yeah, it is. That's the entire point of a job, is for you to accomplish something. Right. And that accomplishment needs to lead to some kind of output. And the output, usually the best way to, to quantify the output is a KPI, key performance indicator, to say that you accomplished this thing. So,
right. It's not the workforce is not just to feel good about showing up to work. That's not there. There is a purpose there.
Right. Unless if you want to go build your own company, which is a lifestyle company, and you just say, hey, come out to our campus and just come hang out. And we have a gym here. Right. And if you want to feel like working out, see how long that company will last.
Right.
So that's on the employer side. Employee side is, you got to realize that, you're getting paid in exchange for your effort and your output. So what I found is, if you're going to come into a company and just think like you're just going to hide and do the least amount of work, first of all, you're not going to get anywhere in life. You're not going to get anywhere in that job, let alone in life. And I think it's up to you to get clarity from the employer. What is my role? What's my KPI that I have to accomplish? And go get at it. Go get at it. Supersede those expectations. Go do amazing. Go put in good work. When you produce those kinds of results, then you produce value for your employer. Then you have something to back it up, to go to your employer, be like, this is the value that I created for you. What else you got for me? How can I provide you more value? When you don't have that kind of mentality, your value grows, which ultimately leads to, right, more value for the company. You level up and you grow from there. And then from there, God knows where you're going to end up. And then, just be kind of do beyond the expectations.
I want to sort of slowly wrap it up, and I want to get to what you are passionate about. What is top of mind right now? You usually have some nuggets that like you haven't really shared yet. What is the best piece of information you can get for the worker, for anybody who's an entrepreneur, who's an employee, or anything? Like, what is top of mind?
Realization over the past year that instead of grinding so much from your job, be able to invest for the future is going to be more and more important. And the timing of it really matters. And the timing is now, ideally, as when you hear this, or as soon as possible, to be able to invest in something that's going to help your future. What is that something? It's going to be an AI company. What AI company? My personal opinion is Tesla is going to be the most revolutionary, most impactful AI company of the future, because they're actually building and have products in real world AI. Real world AI just means products and services that use AI to be able to provide value for the market. One practical thing that Tesla provides is cars that have FSD, full self-driving mode, basically cars that drive themselves. For the past year and a half, I have FSD on my car, and it's continuously got improved over time, so much so, literally every time that I use FSD, I'm like, this is the most amazing thing ever. It's awesome. It's the best feeling. And I'm able to just relax. Something that people don't like doing is driving. Now I'm able to just sit there, watch a YouTube video, but the car is driving itself while the car is using my phone's internet to update itself to get better. And sometimes I'm like sitting there, I'm like, this is the most awesome thing ever. And it's like literally that iPhone moment. Those people that had the early iPhones, iPhone 3 and 4, before it hit the market, is the same kind of feeling that I've been getting with Tesla. And I just get jittery, thinking about it. And, for the past 3 years, I've been heavily investing into Tesla, and I'm trying to just tell my peers, like, guys, this is the same kind of feeling that I have about Bitcoin early on. We don't usually get second chances at doing and taking advantage of one of these opportunities. Now's the time before
Sam,
the matches.
You're wrong. Elon Musk is a cancer to society. Well. He's I could have invested in cigarettes and made a lot of money. I could have invested in war contractors and made a lot of money. And also, it's not going to be as valuable as you say.
Sucks for you. You continue saying that to yourself, and I'm sorry. You're gonna build up that resentment over time of people who took advantage of the most revolutionary opportunities that they ever had in their life, just because you have these thoughts. And these thoughts, by the way, that people have, I realize, come from really bad sources. For example, I get these types of articles from my father-in-law, and I think, follows your traditional mainstream MSNBC and whatever kinds of sources, and he shares me these articles, and I read them like, this is so clickbait, and it's so made up, and it's so biased because it's picking one particular thing to try to bring somebody down or a company down when it's missing the entire big picture. Oh, there's a recall. Okay, the recalls happen all the time. GMC just had like 100 recalls this year, but no, that's not a thing. But in the big grand scheme of things, is they're literally building self-driving cars and robots, and it's going to be, something that's going to really change the world, and it's something that everybody is going to have in their house. Focus on the big picture, and no matter, again, whatever your thoughts are about Elon Musk or whatever that is, again, if you care about the future of you and your family, I think it's very important to actually spend the time to actually learn it, to see what the company is about, what they're doing, and really, again, it's very practically, it's going to affect you and your future. And I don't want people to be left behind.
It is interesting though, because you are so, like, as a human, as just an orator, you are so opposite to Elon Musk, and everything you espouse is so, like, I'm talking about just like public persona. I'm not talking about, like, I think if you really dig deep, you could find, not even dig deep, if you watch him in long form content, he's a very thoughtful, brilliant person, but like his public persona is like very abrasive. It's very childlike. He picks fights with people, things I know you would never do publicly. How have you been able to square that?
For sure. And I'm not trying to become his best friend or follow. He's not my role model in any shape or form. No, of course not. But I'm able to just about, what is he building and what is he doing? Not necessarily what is he like in real life or whatever that is, or what his thoughts are or what his opinions are or things like that. Like, I'm able to just separate out the two.
Yep. Okay. Last thing. You are an employee that's being retaliated against, harassed, discriminated against, and not even about like legally, nothing about law. You're experiencing that. How would you recommend your kid, your spouse, somebody that's important to you, deal with it on a non-legal basis?
You don't have to deal with it. You don't have to put up with it. I think right away I would stop showing up to work and just go talk to I know you said non-lawyer, but non-legal basis, but you have to go talk to somebody who knows how to deal with those kinds of situations. And obviously, Benjy and his team are going to be the best at evaluating those kinds of situations where you don't know what to do, and just get advice about what to do next. But no, life is short. You should not needing to deal with it. And hopefully, you're able to really resolve it.
Where can people find you, and what are your parting words?
You can find me, just search my name. So I'm sure my name is going to be somewhere in the title. Just take that, put it into Facebook, YouTube, Google, whatever you like. And I'm also open to guiding people. So, if you're usually, like, a lot of 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds always find my email address and they email me, and then ended up talking to them on the phone and guiding them in the right direction. Feel free to reach out to me. I'll be happy to kind of guide you in the right direction. Last words, focus on your future. See where the trends are. I always say follow early adopters. See, what they're doing, where they're, what they're thinking about. For me, it's very obvious. Just, AI is where it's at. So that's where I'm spending my time and focus and attention, seeing what the future looks like with AI in the mix, and how can I provide value using AI in the real world. And that's where it's at. Yeah.
Love it. Amazing. If you haven't done any AI whatsoever, what's a starter guide?
Talk to ChatGPT. A lot of people, I feel it's like, I get discussions like, what do I do? Like with AI, I'm like, how often do you talk to ChatGPT? Oh, every once in a while. I'm like, it's not enough. It should be throughout the entire day. And it's not just about work. It's also your personal stuff. A lot of people, and I know a lot of people use ChatGPT for personal, but even more so, everything. Like for me, like every single decision and research that I do when it comes to my personal, it's kind of crazy. Like just yesterday, like picking the right color for a sofa, the optimal sofa color. And then I was able to upload a picture of my house to say what will be the optimal, color of a sofa for this thingy.
And I think the important thing to note there is that you don't need to, it's not just like leaving it up to the devices of OpenAI and ChatGPT. There's context. I want to live in, everything that I do, I want to be in the spirit of this religion, or I want it to be in the spirit of this thought process, or I want it to be in the spirit, so that when you're asking these questions, it's giving you feedback based on that context.
Yeah. And the other part is like, make sure that these AIs know you. And now there's two sides to this, is like, don't feed information about yourself. I'm the exact opposite. I want AI to know me as well as possible, because it's going to give me more contextual answers. And the answers are going to be much more helpful if it knows that I have, these kinds of specific things in my life. So don't be afraid. And I always say, like, Google essentially already has all the information about you.
Right.
If you got Gmail or you got Outlook, is Microsoft. So if you're on email, if you have email, your information is already out there. So why are you scared of another company owning your information?
I think that sums up the entire episode, which is fear will ruin you. Overcome the fear. Thank you for watching. Rep the Worker. Thank you so much, Sam. We appreciate you.
It's fun, as always.
Amazing.
Always on the battleground. Stand strong. Speak truth with a voice they can't ignore. Rep the Worker. That's the mission. That's what